Democrats are finally rolling up their sleeves and turning the tables on MAGA Republicans at critical congressional hearings. So the MAGA Republicans are holding a hearing to try to attack the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the MAGA Republicans, led by Jim Jordan in the Judiciary Committee, lined up their witnesses to try to attack the Southern Poverty Law Center and say there was some grand Democrat Southern Poverty Law Center conspiracy to promote extremism, when in fact the Southern Poverty Law Center was out there exposing extremists who, by the way, Donald Trump is pardoning and wants to give billions of dollars to for a corrupt slush fund where Donald Trump's main purpose is also to waive his own tax liability for the past 20 to 30 years. But Democrats were not letting MAGAs get away with it. And you had the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, Jamie Raskin, really putting the dagger right into Jim Jordan. Same thing with Jasmine Crockett, really shoving it back in Jim Jordan's face. And even the Democratic witnesses, or the witnesses who were called by the MAGA Republicans, who they were trying to call out, ended up making very powerful presentations and basically hit it right back in the Republicans' face and showed them, that this hearing idea was just an absolute disaster for Republicans. Let me show you what went down. So the MAGA Republican witness over here, Miss King, she was testifying. And let me show you what happened when Jamie Raskin was cross-examining this MAGA Republican witness, Alveda King. Watch when she's like, "You want me to try to get you some evidence? Yeah, that's what you're here for, not to lie." But she was just lying profusely. Here, play this clip.
So do you pay the same people to do the bomb and then go and comfort the people from being bombed? You pay the same people to do both jobs? That's kind of fraud to me. That's weird and chaotic and confusing.
Well, Dr. King, I don't think there's any allegation that anybody who was working with the Southern Poverty Law Center bombed anyone. Do you have information to that effect?
Because I don't personally, but outside agitators did bomb our house in '63 and then ran back and took off the Ku Klux Klan sheets and put on police things and ran up in the yard.
Well, that's
the same people. It was crazy.
I'm with you, and that's a statement about the racism of that police force working with the Ku Klux Klan.
Hey, y'all pay both of them to do the double jobs. SPLC does. Really, you hire them to do the bombing, then you hire them to fix the bombing. That's weird.
Dr. King, you're asserting a lot of things under oath, and you haven't brought the evidence with you. So I think
I'll get some for you.
Okay, please bring us the evidence, and I'll yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll get some for you.
Mr. Fair, did this.
Then when she was cross-examined, again, this is Jim Jordan's witness right here. She starts talking about, well, I'll just let the clip do whatever just happens. Just watch Jamie Raskin cross-examine her here. Play this clip.
SPLC is using.
Okay, but my question is about the one proposed by Todd Blanche. It's a yes or no.
I will not answer on it.
Okay.
I think
Mr.
they
Banger,
need to stop killing the babies and cutting the penises off. And so any slush fund is
I have limited time. We can
money in that is the problem.
Mr. Banger.
Now, state regime media, Fox was caught flat-footed when they were showing Jamie Raskin's opening statement, where he used this hearing to highlight all of Donald Trump and Trump's regime, egregious corruption and extremism. This was live on Fox because Jim Jordan wanted this thing, because Jim Jordan was like, we're going to expose the Democrats in the Southern Poverty Law Center. But Jamie Raskin, who is the ranking member for the Democrats, is like, no, I'm going to use this to expose you MAGA criminals, you MAGA pedo protectors. I'm going to expose you all. Watch Jamie Raskin here. Let's play it.
And now, Todd Blanche wants to create a $1.776 billion taxpayer-funded slush fund to turn the January 6 foot soldiers into MAGA millionaires. And while Blanche was at it, he signed an outrageous super pardon to give not just Donald Trump, but his entire family and all their businesses complete and total immunity from any investigation, audit, lawsuit, or prosecution by any federal agency for any criminal or civil violation against the United States up until this point. And while systematically firing prosecutors and FBI agents who worked on the January 6th investigation, the largest criminal probe in American history, Trump and Blanche are putting January 6th rioters, violent extremists, and their closest allies in key positions throughout the DOJ, like Jared Wise, who urged rioters to kill police officers on January 6th, like Ed Martin, who defended violent cop beaters, both as a defense attorney and a federal prosecutor. He's been given free rein now as DOJ's pardon attorney, despite his long history of consorting with neo-Nazis. Donald Trump nominated Paul Ingrassia, 3 years out of law school, to run the ethics watchdog Office of the Special Counsel, and stood by him after it was revealed that he admitted to having, quote, a bit of a Nazi streak in him. And he wrote that the Martin Luther King holiday should be tossed into the seventh circle of hell. The Department of Defense hired Elias Irizarry, an unqualified, inexperienced 24-year-old Trump loyalist and convicted J6 rioter who was pardoned by the president to work on irregular warfare and counterterrorism, and so on. We understand that the extremist swamp that gave rise to this criminal indictment against the SPLC is just one more Orwellian attack on the civil rights movement and one more Kafkaesque prosecution designed to shame and ensnare the righteous and acquit and absolve the guilty. It is a tissue of lies that will join the pantheon of debunked fraudulent prosecutions that DOJ has been excoriated for by dozens of judges across the land, appointed by all different presidents. A few weeks ago, a federal judge in Rhode Island, Judge McElroy, called the government's submissions in a case misleading, if not utterly false. Another judge said that DOJ attorneys had submitted a patently false allegation to the court. Another judge rejected administration officials' testimony as disingenuous, squalid, and dishonorable. And another court found the administration had provided a highly misleading, if not intentionally false, sworn declaration so disingenuous that the court is left with little confidence that the United States can be trusted to tell the truth about anything. I predict it will not be long before another federal judge casts this obscene prosecution to the winds. I'm only sorry the great name of the House Judiciary Committee has now been made an accomplice to this fraud against the court and the country. I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back.
Then we heard from Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who's just doing such an incredible job in Congress, and glad to have her in Congress, just doing the hard work. Here, let's play this clip.
You know what? I hate that we have spent this much time, on SPLC, and we've not addressed the elephant in the room, the literal elephant in the room. The vast majority of the people on that side of the aisle, and for those of you that are at home, let me tell you, when I say that side of the aisle, I'm talking about the Republicans, the ones that brought this hearing. And again, you've heard that this is not the first hearing, but the vast majority of them are white men. White men are lecturing people of color because the vast majority, actually, any semblance of diversity comes from this side of the aisle. You want to tell people of color who is fighting for who? People of color do not feel comfortable or welcomed within your party. That's why you have to parade someone who has the name Dr. King attached to them so that people can be confused, because I have been reading the comments online and people are like, who is this Dr. King? Because you want them to believe that somehow she espouses who Dr. King was, yet you've yet to have MLK the third come in here. You've yet to have Dr. Bernice King, the ones that were actually raised by Dr. King, the ones that actually probably understand the teachings of Dr. King.
Then you had Jim Jordan try to cross-examine the witness who he was trying to embarrass. So he called the interim director of the Southern Poverty Law Center, this guy by the name of Fair. And Jim Jordan was like, so you wish you never did this Southern Poverty Law Center program where you worked with informants and in order to uncover these extremist groups. That's why you canceled the program. And then the Southern Poverty Law Center interim head is like, no, we don't do it anymore because at this point, the extremists are so embedded in the Trump government and the Trump regime that running an informant program is kind of useless when the Trump regime is the extremists. We don't need the informant to expose it when literally the guy in the Oval Office who's out there turning the White House lawn into a freaking junkyard for a UFC fight, the guy who's destroying this country and pardoning January 6th insurrectionists and literally having them work at high-level positions in the national security apparatus. Yeah, we know who it is. It's you. It's you. It's the MAGAs. It's Jim Jordan. Watch as he brilliantly flips the script. Let's play this clip.
I'm just asking in general. I'm not saying it's one thing. You've said you've had informants, you had field sources. If you have informants and field sources there, that's one thing. But the indictment says that these informants and field sources were encouraging other people to attend these hate rallies. Right. And I'm saying, okay, so you don't have to answer that specifically, but is that a good thing in general?
Again, all the allegations in the indictment,
do you wish,
Chairman Jordan,
okay,
will be addressed.
Do you wish you hadn't have done the program? You said the program was successful, helpful, but now you're stopping it.
We stopped the program because we believe hate and extremism has migrated significantly online and into government agencies.
Wow, that's big. That makes no sense. The chair now recognizes.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a UC request, if that's all right.
Gentleman can say his UC request.
Okay. First, asking unanimous consent to introduce this article about whether, in fact, people have been driven from the public square. 2025 was a banner year for Alliance Defending Freedom.
Now, it wasn't just that hearing in the day as well. Despite the MAGA Republicans trying to do everything they can to cover up Donald Trump's dark past and to engage in this protection of the pedo ring, the Epstein files that Donald Trump and the Epstein class in the MAGAs want to do, there was still a interview. The Democrats are chopping wood on this investigation. They're not going to let James Comer and MAGA get away with everything. And so even though James Comer's now like not doing hearings under oath anymore, and he's just doing these interviews, Democrats were able to get the interview of an individual by the name of Groff. And Groff was the assistant to Epstein. And so she appears in the files, Leslie Groff appears in the Epstein files about 167,000 times. Jeffrey Epstein said that Leslie Groff was like his right hand. She's a co-conspirator. And so the Democrats were interviewing her, and she admitted that she would set up these interviews between her, Epstein, and Donald Trump, which I think is a pretty important admission.
What are you trying to uncover with Bill Gates and his testimony about Epstein?
Well, look, today we had Ms. Groff, who's actually still testifying right now to the committee. She's giving us, in fact, I think a lot of names of staff, employees, folks that worked in the Epstein orbit. She worked for Epstein for 18 years. So she's being asked, I think, some very tough questions, rightly so, about what she knew, who she scheduled appointments with. She scheduled massages, we know that. And so that's being asked of her right now. We're going to go back as soon as votes are over. But then of Mr. Gates, we've said we don't care if you are a Republican or a Democrat or who you are. The fact that Mr. Gates still had a relationship with Mr. Epstein, even after knowing about the conviction, knowing actually what he had done, I think is very concerning. So we want to know, what did Mr. Gates know? Who else was around that orbit? And why Mr. Gates continued to have a relationship with Mr. Epstein? I think those are important questions.
That was Democratic Congress member Garcia right there. Now I'll show you, James Comer was here as well. Here's what James Comer had to say. Let's play it.
You put in a formal request to have with you to have Todd Blanche subpoenaed. Are you going to act on that subpoena? Will Todd Blanche become?
Todd Blanche came to speak to us for a briefing, and the Democrats got up and tiptoed out and ran to the press, clutching their pearls in outrage. What a wasted opportunity. We had Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi in there, and they didn't ask Todd Blanche a single question. But the Republicans stayed. We did our job, and we asked Blanche questions for 2 hours, Blanche and Bondi. So, it's never enough for Garcia. I have a question I think you all should ask Garcia and Walkinshaw and all their members that come out and complain and they're outraged. They complained about Lutnick. They said he said all this stuff. Same thing with Bondi. You all have the transcripts. What was What was their problem? They say stuff to try to create a false narrative. They have an opportunity to ask questions to people, and they refuse because they just pull stunts to try to get on TV. We are doing a substantive investigation. I would argue the most thorough investigation ever of Epstein, because the more evidence
Look, if you're in this community, you're paying attention. You know what's happening, and a lot of what's happening, it's directly affecting your Medicare. Plans are being discontinued, premiums are going up, and the broker you might have talked to probably pushing Medicare Advantage plans, even if they aren't right for you. That's why I want you to know about Chapter. They're the only advisors who compare every Medicare plan in the country. Thousands of people from this community have already used them. One viewer, Kevin in Florida, is saving $2,100 a year. Another, Steven, finally has a plan that covers his dialysis. And for the Meidas Mighty, a call with Chapter is free and takes just 20 minutes. So if you're on the right plan, they'll tell you. And if not, they'll help you find a plan that fits your needs. I want you to know that we've gotten such incredible feedback from the Meidas Mighty about Chapter. Frankly, it is overwhelming, the positivity that is out there for Chapter. And so I'm so glad to be affiliated with it. I'm so glad you're all having great experiences. So call 82 Medicare today to speak with Chapter. That is 82 Medicare, and feel confident in your Medicare coverage. So here's what Congresswoman Ansari had to say about the interview with Leslie Groff, who is Jeffrey Epstein's assistant. Let's play this clip.
You know, she did as she was told. She really, is saying essentially that she was naive, didn't know better, did not think anything of it. She was calling and booking predominantly in New York is what she says, that she didn't manage most of what happened in Palm Beach or in New Mexico. He also had, 5 or 6 traveling assistants. So that's people like Sarah Kellen, who of course came before us, and she herself was a victim and says she was a victim. But Leslie does not have that same story. She says she was never abused or assaulted by Epstein, that there was nothing romantic or sexual in nature there at all. And yes, she scheduled all of his calls with important, high-profile people. She was just, as I left the room, being asked about setting up calls with Donald Trump before their alleged fallout, and she said that she did that about once a quarter before that time period.
And did she know anything about the tenor of their conversations? Did she reveal any of that?
She would reveal nothing about that, said she didn't know. I mean, the number of times the interview will come out as it does in form of a transcript. Yeah. You will see the words, I don't recall, I don't know, no, I wasn't aware, many times. Understood.
Congressman, you mentioned that 2008 agreement that Epstein reached with federal prosecutors, obviously controversial in its own right, but it includes a clause that it would not bring any charges against any potential co-conspirators, including Leslie Groff. Did she answer questions about that? Why was her name included in this non-prosecution agreement?
My recollection is that she said she did not know. She, was not aware. And Sarah Kellen said a very similar thing, that she found out about it after the fact. I think there needs to be an independent investigation into this non-prosecution agreement from 2008. I think Alex Acosta, when he came before the committee, made very clear, at least in my view, it was very clear that he was lying.
Then the MeidasTouch network was able to catch up with MAGA Republican Congress member Rob Whitman, who faked a phone call for roughly 90 seconds after being asked about MAGA Mike Johnson's comments about cutting Social Security. You can see the phone screen remain visible with his cheek inadvertently tapping different parts of his display. MeidasTouch on Capitol Hill for you. Watch as we caught up with MAGA Republican Congressmember Rob Whitman, who literally ran away from us. Here, play this clip.
Congressman, what is Mike Johnson's secret plan to cut Social Security?
Hey, how you doing? I'm good. I'm good with that. Yeah, I'll be there in just a few minutes.
No response, sir?
I'm heading your way right now. Yeah, it's over at 416.
Congressman, what is Mike Johnson's secret plan to cut Social Security?
Yes, I appreciate that. I've got some more efforts that I want to talk to you about. There are actually more things that we have to be working on. yeah, I want to make sure that we're putting
No response, sir.
bill. Yeah, listen, thanks. I appreciate your help on this. I really do need some more of your input. Yeah, if you can actually reach out, I'll make sure that we do more of this. Yeah, listen, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe me, I understand. There's more of those things that we need to work on. Yes. Well, thanks again. Listen, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Congressman, what is Mike Johnson's secret plan to cut Social Security?
And just so you know what he was responding to, what we were asking him, we were asking questions that MAGA Mike Johnson was saying that he wants to cut Social Security. Here's MAGA Mike saying that he wants to cut Social Security. Let's play it.
We're going to lead up to what we have to do and address the largest spending items. The reason we're in trouble is because over 74% of federal spending is on autopilot, mandatory spending. That's your entitlement programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and then things like Social Security. They have to be adjusted and fixed. We have a plan to do that next year, and it's critical.
And MAGA Mike was also running away from members of the press. MAGA Mike said the following about Donald Trump's strikes on Iran, which have now further created calamity here in the United States. Let's play it.
Among leadership there. What about on Iran? He says they're going to respond on Iran. Do you have a sense of whether there'll be a new bombing campaign? And why shouldn't Congress weigh in if there is another bombing campaign?
I don't know what the reaction is going to be, but obviously Iran cannot be firing on U.S. troops. That's a serious problem. We'll see what happens.
Did you discuss this Apache getting shot down?
No, we did not know about that when I was in the Situation Room today. I did.
And then MAGA Republican Senator Thune was asked about it as well. Here's what he had to say.
On the sidelines here?
Well, I think that senators tend to be kept in the loop on what the administration is doing for the most part. I think sometimes you have to make decisions in real time that have national security implications. And so I don't expect we're going to hear every single move that's made by the administration. But I do think what we want to see is them succeed. And I think right now is a critical juncture in terms of the president's negotiations with the Iranians. And so I hope at least that our members are inclined to continue to support the administration's efforts to strike a deal there that is good not only for our country, but for our allies in the region. And frankly, for that matter, for the whole world. A nuclear Iran is not.
Meanwhile, Democratic Congress member Raja Krishnamurthy was asked about Leslie Groff on MSNBC. Here's what he had to say.
Well, in the meantime, let's talk about what's happening tomorrow. You have Leslie Groff coming in. I'm going to read this from The Guardian. The title of the piece, very telling. Seriously, the best boss ever inside the world of Jeffrey Epstein's assistant. Groff worked for Epstein for 18 years, from 2001 until his arrest in July 2019. Compared to the royals, politicians, billionaires, and professors who have featured in the Epstein files, Groff is low status, a non-celebrity with no public reputation to lose. But when you search for her name in the files, you receive more than 160,000 results, more than anyone else. Why is she of interest? What can she tell you? What do you want to know from her?
Well, Jeffrey Epstein himself said that she was an extension of his brain, that he was some kind of prosthesis to her. And she was the one that scheduled all the massages, which was code word for sex. She met with all the underage minors. We have emails. My staff was showing me the emails where she's emailing these girls who are in school talking about their school schedules. So for her to claim that she didn't know that they were underage.
I'm sorry, you have the emails, Congressman?
Yeah,
they were in the files.
Yes.
Is this the unredacted version or the redacted version?
So parts of it are redacted, but enough of it is clear as to what the messages are. And And they're talking about their orchestra schedules and stuff like that. I mean, she clearly knew they were underage. She knew about the 2008 conviction for where he basically was convicted of solicitation of underage minors. And so for her to say that she had no knowledge of any wrongdoing or was part of any wrongdoing is just very hard to believe.
And I want to give a hat tip to our very own Katie Fang, who's filed a lawsuit against the Trump regime and the Trump DOJ for their cover-up of the Epstein files. And Katie Fang is demanding the release of the Epstein files. Here's what she had to say about Leslie Groff and what went down on Capitol Hill. Let's play it.
Tomorrow, June 9th, before House Oversight, in a transcribed interview, not one under oath, not one that is videotaped, and not one that is public, the long-time executive assistant for Jeffrey Epstein will provide information to members of Congress. Her name is Leslie Groff. It's spelled Lesleygroff. This woman's name appears more than 167,000 times in the existing rollout of the Epstein files, as currently illegally and improperly redacted by the Trump Department of Justice. I'm going to say that again. 167,000 times Leslie Groff's name appears in the Epstein files. She worked for Epstein from February of 2001 until July of 2019. I want you to think about the fact that that is 18, 19 years of employment as Jeffrey Epstein's closest executive assistant. I am talking somebody who knew the intimate day in and day out of this man's schedule. They had access to information about this man's life and schedule, travel, etc. Somebody who also had access to directories of contacts, politicians, royalty, Hollywood, political elite, business people, academics, you name it, this woman had access to all this information. And yet, she insists she had no idea what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. She had no idea that he was sexually abusing children. She had no idea that he was running a multi-decade international sex trafficking ring. No idea. She also interacted with Ghislaine Maxwell, let me be clear. And she also claims, Leslie Groff claims, she has no idea about Ghislaine Maxwell being complicit and also a participant in this multi-decade international sex trafficking ring. It defies logic and reality. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, here we are.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. And thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.